same thing, 9 to 5. So there are times I think it's looking at how are you feeling. Sometimes you also, even if you look at your circle, it's like maybe if you're struggling with something, you just want to hang out with people for fun times. But if you're someone who's like, we can't stay here, we have to go to grow, which people do you usually look for at that point?
Yes.
Then you know you're like, if I come to Millie, yes, she'll encourage me, but it's like she'll encourage me with a kiboko. She's like, you know, you've really done well this far.
But
really.
But that is what I'm saying. I can assure you, many times you'll avoid that truthful friend. Many times you'll avoid that challenging person. That person who will encourage you with the kiboko, you will probably go to them as a last resort. You don't start with them. You don't start with them. If it is your parent who you know, this parent doesn't take, you know, nonsense words. They tend to say the truth. They are very firm. You will avoid them. You only go to them when you're crying.
Because you know they'll fix it. Okay. But then now in our communities, and of course we're looking to derive value, to add value, you know, in your estate WhatsApp group, you know, that kind of thing. And there's welfare communities, that people call welfare groups. What is your thought around, you know, creating or rather building that? And do you feel like at some point you'll outgrow them and you need to move to other things? I don't know. Because again...
With everything, life is a balance. There's the issue of outgrowing. Yes, it might not happen. But also, remember, if you're adding value, because the question is, are you adding value? If you're adding value, you should be encouraging the people you are with to come along with you, to grow with you. Because normally what we tend to do is we say we have outgrown others. And we leave them behind. You know, I have outgrown this estate, I have outgrown my group of friends, I have outgrown. And probably you did nothing much to encourage them to grow with you. Because if you have a group of 5 people, I believe there's a way you can encourage them to grow with you. You know, and that is why I'm saying there's a lot of lack of self-reflection in society. Because only when you self-reflect do you really ask yourself, of what value am I to the people around me? Of what value am I in that group? Of what value am I? Are you the kind of person when, you know, let's say, for example, you are in a board of a high school in Ushago. You know, I like to use Ushago because people have a way they look down on Ushago. You have gone to this school. Maybe it was your former school. You actually were in it. Now you're a board member. And when you're there and these people are struggling, you have so much knowledge. You have so much, you know, experience you have. But instead of growing them, you keep judging them, keep saying they don't do things. No, hawa watu wa Ushago hawafanyangi vitu venye zinatakikana. That is how we are. We are taking them down. Supposing you changed your attitude and said, step by step, if it's this we are doing, let's do it differently. If it's managing resources, let's manage it differently. You know, show them the way. Because you have gone there because you have some experience, you have some knowledge which they don't have. So you should be the one to really guide them. So exactly what you're asking, of what value are we to our community? Of what value are we, without judging others, without saying that they don't know, without saying they're Ushago people, without saying, you know, we really have this thing we say, watu wa Nairobi wakunywe maji na wakule food. But has anybody ever told those people in Ushago that we can all eat together?
Yes. Good question.
I mean, I agree with you. And I think the only thing I'd add is on top of growing with others, there's also the place for seasons. So maybe it's not even outgrowing, it's that the purpose you are playing in the person's life at that point and the purpose they're playing in yours has come to an end. So really, why struggle? Sometimes it's like, why struggle? Like, it's important to know when it's time to be like, okay, we have maxed out whatever we're meant to do together. Let's go. And it can be done in love. It doesn't have to be something for like, thank you so much. I'm good now. Okay, goodbye. Like, it doesn't have to be that.
And it doesn't have to be done on WhatsApp with a chat of, I'm leaving people behind.
I'm a WhatsApp status passive aggressive.
Yes. It needs to be done with love, as you're saying, because the season is over and I must move on and you must move on. So it must be done with love. We have agreed we are at this point where we need to leave each other. Unfortunately, it's not the case. We do not leave each other with love.
Because that sounds very cute. Like, hey, Millie, I feel like we've come to the end of the road. It won't end like that.
Not necessarily in that cute, nice voice, but with logic. With logic. I think our relationship has come to an end and we need to move on. I need to move on. You need to move on with logic. Because with the sweet voice,
but one person will come with that logic you're saying. Hey, the recipient, you know, it's like...
Maybe how was the relationship nurtured? Because the way you're asking, it sounds like me, I got what I needed from this person. Me, I'm done now. Let me just
I'm
go to the
moving.
next
I'm
one.
gone.
Maybe I just don't want to fight with them on my way out.
True, there's also
But
that.
it's an
but then it
assumption you're
means there's a
making.
gap.
Maybe I'm also at that point where I want to leave. You're assuming
wow.
that, you're assuming that I'll cry. I'm not going to
Maybe, yeah,
cry.
they're like, oh, it's about time.
Yeah, exactly.
You might
Maybe I'm
actually
like,
be Okay, that's fair. That's fair.
But I think that's
it's,
why-
I think it's because I've seen people really don't part as amicably as they
Yeah.
intend to part, and then some people also take it that now that we are here, let me tell you something. So they start to bring up old issues, and then the intended, the good intentions, literally pave the way to hell. For that.
But remember that in a relationship is a combination of so many things. Even when you're in that community, you're in a relationship. Even when you're at work, I keep telling people, it's a relationship. It's a work relationship. The community you are in, you have a relationship with those people. Now the question is, in any relationship, what are the things that make a relationship? There are values, there are things that move that. And one of the things is communication. So all along, as we were in this community, how did we communicate? So that by the time I'm leaving, are people going to accept my leaving? Or was I, how was I in that community? How was I working with those people? Because that is the question. And so when I'm communicating my leaving or my parting way, how will it be? And of course, there will be people who will be like, thank God Bella is gone. But yes, I'm so shocked. But there'll also be those ones who will be like, we'll miss you. We value you. We appreciate the time we spent. So it's, you're laughing, is what has come to your mind.
Because you just remember the relationships that didn't work out. You're like, yeah, you're right. But I think there's also a place for, in addition to what you've said, I think there's a place for nurturing. Because sometimes it's like we expect them to work out by themselves. We don't put the time, or if you put the time, it's like, let me call you back, and then you don't call after 1 week. Maybe that time you had to share something. And so you find, especially where there are strange relationships, or the ones for thank God Bio is leaving this group now, you find if you really look back and see, was this relationship nurtured? There were gaps. Like, did we agree? Because nurturing is, do we agree on what we're accepting here, what we're not accepting? Do we agree what we're doing, what we're not going to do? Like, have we nurtured that relationship? So most times where you find it's a struggle, or people catch a feeling, you'll find there was a gap in how, either how it was managed or how it was nurtured, I guess, in that case.
I like what you've said, because I've just gone back into, the chamas that we have, the welfare societies that we have, and then you find that people who are being removed are people who don't nurture the relationship. They don't attend meetings, they don't contribute to the fund, the benevolent fund, and they don't even, and some people also now, when maybe something has happened, are we doing a wedding? Remember, we are society, we're community-based. So there's a wedding, there's a child who's been born, there's a funeral, because that also happens, there's hatches, matches, dispatches.
Yes. And then,
we don't
then people are negative. They have negative energy. They're like, no, always on the no, with no reason. Because you can say a no with a reason. I don't think this is working, or this will not work. But then there are people who in Chama will be like, no to every suggestion.
Yes. So the people who don't come, and the others who say no to everything. So they're not nurturing their relationship, or not adding value, or building their community as was the intended purpose for. I don't know, of course everybody has to have a voice. And then in every place there's decorum to be followed. But at what point then, yes, I'm part of this community, but I don't want to have my voice cut off or swallowed in the larger noise. I still want to remain myself, but still part of the community.
Well, I don't know. I think once you're in a community, you have the opportunity to raise your voice. It is up to you, because nobody can raise your voice for you. You must raise your voice. Imagine, and here we are sitting here. We are a community.
Yes.
If we sat for 30 minutes here and I didn't talk, you can't raise my voice.
Press play.
Yes, press play. I have to play myself. So it's up to you to raise your voice. I think it's because of our culture, the way we were raised. Told that you must be quiet, and especially as a woman. Don't talk, Violet. Women don't speak up. Don't talk loudly. And that is what sometimes strangles our voice.
I feel like also something that maybe it's not my struggle personally, but something that happens a lot when we're in community, just to borrow the word you used earlier, homogeneous. Yeah, in this, we want to look like we're the same in our group, in our whatever. And then when one of us is struggling, then it's difficult to speak up, because then you don't want to look like you're missing your beat or your rhythm. How then do we overcome that? Or how would you tell someone to overcome that? Because the struggle will always happen at some point or another. And, you know, your steps will be, you know, you'll misstep here and there. What do you think?
You really think of dancing, you know, when people are dancing.
Yeah.
People expect everybody should dance the same way.
Yeah.
You know, I always struggle. At some point, yes, we can dance the same way. But remember, my steps are not your steps. So I am allowed to dance the way I dance. You know, I'm allowed to, and it's really, that is life. I'm allowed to dance the way I dance, even in my community, in my personal life. There's that, as I keep saying, the basics. But then again, allow me to be me. Because otherwise you strangle me. Anytime you know, think about the times when you have not been allowed to be you. What does it make you feel like?
Like you're restricted.
Like you're choking.
Shrinking.
Yes, you're shrinking, you're choking, you're restricted. You feel like you're not performing to your best level. So there must be that allowance of allowing. You know, it's the same way even when we are parenting as parents. We want to parent cut, you know, one way, every child the same way. But they're all unique. So yes, there are rules in the house, but at the same time, there should be accommodation for the individuality as you parent that child. Because you will have 5 children, born of you, you know, you one mother, but totally different. You know, none of you are the same. None of you are the same. So as much as you set the basics, you know, the ground rules will be the same, but then there also needs to be the accommodation for that hyper child, the one with the energy, the one who's low energy, the one who doesn't wake up early, you know. But we're so strict to want, if waking up time is 7 and we brush our teeth by 7:30, everybody must. But remember, I'm not a morning person. I don't feel like brushing my teeth. You're breathing. I don't feel like brushing my teeth at 7, you know. You need to accommodate me as your child, because not everybody is a morning person. I'll probably do my homework in the evening. I do it at best because that's my time. Do you accommodate me as your child?
Do you feel like we sort of bring those school rules to the house?
I think so. I think if you're running a household with 5 children, you need some rules. Honestly,
I agree.
That's why we need routine. That's why we need structure. That's why we need schedules. So I think there's a place for having routine, having structure. But there's also the place for like room for, okay, outside, if you've done this, if your bed is made, if the dishes are washed, if the this, that, and other, you can give room for those other things. Because really what you don't want to do is stifle your child. Because if for you it was like, no, when I was brought up, this is how we did things. But we're in 2022. We've talked about how the generation that's 18 to 24 is very different.
Yes.
And it means that the ones who are 5 years old now, it's going to be very different when they have dishwashing age.
Even then, when it was back in the 80s and 90s, you know, growing up, for me, I always wondered, why do I have to conform to this, you know, everything in the house? Because I am me. I need to be given allowance. If I want to read, if I want to just laze, sometimes you just want to laze. You need to be given that space. You know, doesn't matter whether it was 2020, 2019, you know, your individuality is very important. Your individuality is very important. It's what makes you. And therefore, even as you parent, even when you're in that community, bring your individuality. Don't leave it aside. Don't forget yourself. You know, come with your voice. Come with who you are. You know, come just who you are. If you eat 3 cakes and they're okay for you, you know, there are people who eat and they don't even add a kilo. And let nobody tell you that you must eat 2 kilos or 2. I mean, one
piece.
I mean, of course, within reason, you know. So your individuality, carry it.
And I
That's
think
very
also,
important.
Sorry, I think there's also the place for, because you had asked about like if you're joining a community, like how do you make sure maybe you're in the right space? I think you also set expectations. Because by the time you're making that decision, like I think when you're a child and you're going to school, really it's your parents' decision. If you're going to go to a certain high school, it's based on maybe your hard work and again your parents' decision. So when you get to that place where it's you who's making those decisions, one, you could look at setting the expectations about, I'm looking for this kind of group for this kind of purpose. And so if I find it and it's serving my purpose, then I'll join. If not, again, we've talked about like good exit, not just ghosting, doing a viral video on social media. And then I think it's also, once you've set those expectations, of course, you're finding that group. And then when you're in the group, you also set your expectations for like, what do I want to achieve from this? What do I want to add to this? If I want to be heard, what needs to happen? Because you can find out the rules. Because sometimes it's like not everyone speaks at the same time. Let's speak, like imagine if we're talking at the same time here, no one would understand anything.
Correct.
It's what are the rules that are already there if you're coming outside in. If you're creating one, what rules do you want to set for the community you're trying to build? Set those expectations, then you'll probably find you fit in a community better. But if it's something that's almost organic, because sometimes you find you go for an event, then you're drawn. Usually you're drawn to where you see people having fun. So usually you start strolling closer, and you find that it's more, they become your people. So sometimes it's organic, no expectations. Just have a good time. If anything comes from that, then again, you're well and good. You look at what expectations did you have. Maybe you just came for the event to have a good time, but you found a friend there, or you found a group, you're like, I've been looking for this group, let me join, what are your rules? You're able to set your expectations from that.
I like what you've said, because for me, again, also the question is, when we join communities, and rather when you're part of communities, must we always speak up? Must we always, you know, like, maybe we're being choleric in our approach that I must have a voice, I must take up space. I think there's something to be, you know, questioned over there, because like you said, it could just gravitate to the fun side of things, and you know that's the value you're adding, but it doesn't have to be anything, you know, strict and this is what I'm here to do, da 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 da. So I think also we tend to get lost in what am I doing here? Why am I here? Yet actually, and you know, Bella said about when you bring your personality, maybe your personality is laid back. So you can actually join a community and lay back.
But you have to be careful not to be selfish. It's me. Where does it become about the community? Where does it become about the others? So there's the place for individuality, and then there's the place for selfishness. So if it's like, I don't want my voice to be lost, I want to be heard, I want to be able to add value and be added value too, then there's the place for me, it's my way or the highway. So it's like, what's that balance between selfishness? Because sometimes you have to stand up for our rights. But then there's a place for sometimes it's more better for the community that like, I hold back that opinion or I go with the flow. That's true.
Because I think we should actually, I don't know, stop being so choleric and things to do and list and what. And then that will also give us grace for ourselves and also grace for other people who we interact with in our communities. And then it won't have to be so, things won't be so strict. We'll be able to just, you know, mingle and, you know, do whatever we need to do together without so much of a high price to pay in terms of being in that community.
I think also people set communities, the perception, it's about also the perception when you're in a community.